Hello people, Suffolk Sport Glide Rider here. Please remember, in all my videos I'm not a professional filmmaker or videographer, I'm purely an amateur. And please remember, I'm not a professional mechanic either. Just an amateur trying to show that some jobs can be done at home, saving a bit of time and money, and the satisfaction that you can do the jobs yourself. Thanks for watching. Well people, it's been a long time since the last video, mainly because I've not been doing anything to the bike other than riding. As we all know, on the left hand side of the bike, at the front below the tank, we do have a USB port. I've then taken that USB port with a splitter, so I run two things, the camera and my smartphone when it's on handlebars. That USB port only works with the ignition on, which is great for the camera. You don't want the camera running once I park the bike and turn the ignition off. But a couple of times last season I went out without the phone being fully charged, and having left it on the bike, it's not then charging, and once the ignition's off, and I've ended up with the phone going flat, other than when I then plug it back into the bike with the ignition running. So what I decided is I need a USB port that is straight off the battery and not via the ignition system. So I have now bought it's a twin USB port that I'm going to mount up here somewhere, probably on the handlebar. So you need to get the power from there back to the battery. I was thinking I was going to have to take the tank off, but having looked into it carefully, if you take the fairing off the front of the bike, then with a bit of very strong stiff wire, you can feed it, pushing against the top of the tank very carefully, and that wire will come out. You will see it down the other end of the tank, so you can feed the wire through. I know I can get the cable through there without actually taking the tank off. Only problem then was, by connecting the two cables together, you see that there is a big inline fuse on here, and that is not going to go through that little hole. So I thought I'm going to have to loosen the tank at one end to feed it through. However, having then looked carefully, the length of this wire is going to fit all the way back to the taillight, so we don't need it that long anyway. So what I've decided to do is basically cut the end off where you've got the inline fuse, cut the end off, stick the two wires together, then feed it through, and then I will, my electrical skills are good enough to reconnect the wires and put a connection in it. So that's what I now intend to do. And so, just like that, feed a cable pulled and the new cable fed through. Simples. But then we've got it going over the top of the brackets, and the seat is going to catch on that. So with a bit of careful fiddling, I need to feed it through the little hole there. Might have to undo the screw, but hopefully that'll just go through there, and then it's underneath down to the battery. Nice and safe. So let's give that a go. Okay, so cable's through there, comes under the tank, runs along the side of the framework there, and then disappears down underneath the bracket. The cable will fit nicely down there. So now all I have to do is shorten this, reconnect the inline fuse and connect it up to the battery, which, as we remember, is a pain in the butt getting down there to inside the battery. Now the positive side has to go in here, but the negative side can go to any earthing point. So what I'm planning on doing is connecting it onto here. These are earthing points for other things connected to the chassis. So that is just the same as feeding the cable through and getting under here to the negative terminal. It'll be far easier keeping all the connections on there than in here for the inline fuse to sit as well. So we'll bimble on and get that. At the other end, I'm not sure where I'm going to fit the connector, but I'm planning, good idea, if I just cable tie it to the other cables. If you can see with the light, which is all the wiring loom coming up for the handlebars, I may as well just put that on the back of them and cable tie it together, because they're all there anyway. And especially with the screen on, you never see any of that behind there. So that's what we shall do, and then I shall have USB that is permanently on, doesn't rely on the ignition being on. Nice and simple. So having fed the cable all the way down through this side, past these couple of pipes, I've thought, why don't I come down the other side of the tank where there isn't any pipes, there's a bigger hole to get the cable through, and we're already on the right side to where we want to be. So I'll whip the cable out and we'll pass it through that other side. So cable nicely fed down the left hand side of the tank, underneath the bracket where the seat mounts, and down through here, and here we are on the correct side of the battery. Connect the earth here and the positive terminals here, and that saved me the hassle of from the other side having to get round the suspension somehow. So it's already here on the left hand side of the bike where all the connections are that we need to connect it up. Now, next important step to remember before playing with the electrics, and certainly before connecting leads to the battery, we're going to disconnect the battery. If you've got the siren fitted to your bike, you must pull the main fuse before disconnecting the battery, or your siren is going to go off. So to do that, we slide the main fuse box forwards towards the front of the bike and it pops out. And then what we just do, key fob in your pocket, turn the ignition on, and pull the main fuse. So everything's dead, so now when we disconnect either the negative or the positive, the siren will not go off. Put your main fuse somewhere safe. I will put the cover back on the box just to protect the others. So now I'm not going to get horrible noise of the siren squealing when I disconnect the battery. Okay people, we know from my previous video about removing the battery and other people's videos, getting to the positive terminal is a bugger. So they recommend using long nose pliers to hold on to the nut as you use the screwdriver and then pull it out. But my long nose pliers are not long enough. Got it out okay without dropping the screw, but it's a 10mm socket. So I managed to get my finger underneath, hold it and pull it out. Getting it back in was another matter. Dropped it a couple of times, or almost dropped it. And it was a pain in the butt because the screw or the nut for the battery would actually fall out of the socket. If you're having that problem, quick solution, I had some double-sided sticky tapes, the sort of tape you stick carpets down on the floor with. So double-sided, put a little bit over the bolt head, put it in the socket so it's all nice and solid, then holding the wires on and you can find your way into the hole and you don't drop the screw. There's the tip for the day, double-sided sticky tape. So yeah, it is, because your fingers, well, my fingers aren't that big and they're certainly not long enough. They're fine for some things, but they're certainly not deep enough to get down to hold the screw in place on that. But it's back in there now. So negative, as I said, the negative is connected to the earth bracket on here, screwed directly to that. And the positive, I've now got the fuse positive connected to the battery. Fuse is out of course, So now I just need to connect the two of these lines, put the fuse in, and we have power. Simples, as they say. Okay, cables all nicely in place, so much so you can't even see them, but the inline fuse is down there, earth is connected up here. Still not positive where I'm going to put the other end, but at the moment, as I said, it's connected to the wiring loom that comes up through the yoke and up through the handlebars. At the moment it's just cable tied onto there till I decide exactly where I want to put it. In general, another job done, and so I now have got USB ports that are via the ignition, which is great for the camera, or straight from the battery, so they will stay on even if I turn the ignition off. Wonderful job. Thanks for watching. Well, that's it for this video, folks. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks to all those that have subscribed. Catch you soon. Stay safe.